I'm Lalita from Let's Speak English. In today's lesson, I'm going to share some different and more meaningful ways to say sorry. Now, of course, it's okay to say I'm sorry when you make a mistake or you do something wrong. Of course, you say I'm sorry. But sorry is really overused in English. It is so overused that sometimes it can seem a little meaningless. You see, people use sorry all the time. They apologize all the time for lots of different reasons. I'm sorry, sorry I'm late, sorry I forgot to bring the etc. Oh, so sorry. And because of that, I'm sorry can feel a less meaningful. Sometimes it can feel like you don't really care, or you're just saying sorry because you feel like you have to, not because you actually mean it. So when you really need to say sorry for something that you have done, maybe a mistake that you have made or some problems that you have created, well then, it's a good idea to use a stronger expression to show that you really mean it. Okay? So let's look at some of these expressions. Let's focus on something different or different ways to say I'm sorry. So one of the hardest thing about apologizing is admitting that you have done something wrong. Socially, it can be an awkward situation, right? It's one that makes you feel a little uncomfortable. Now, if you're talking about a small problem that you have created, perhaps you provided your colleague with some wrong information, it was by an accident, but still you're at fault, then it's absolutely fine to say, my mistake. Just own it, It was my mistake. I made the mistake. So you can actually say, oh, my mistake, instead of saying sorry. My apologies. Now you can also say my apologies. My apologies. I made a mistake. Now there's this other expression, my bad. If you want to tone it down a little and you want to make it little less formal, then you can also say my bad. This has become a common expression, and especially in situations where you did something wrong in a less formal situations. So for example, you're late for the meeting, it started maybe an hour ago, then you can apologize this way. You can say, oh, my bad, I didn't have it in my calendar. So it's like, oops, that was my fault, my mistake. So you just own it, and so you don't really need to say sorry. You don't need to say sorry as well. You're just claiming that the mistake as yours. So another way of saying or apologizing is, I owe you an apology, or I want to apologize, for something. So in that situation, you need something a little more meaningful, okay? So sorry or my bad isn't just quite good enough. You could say, Grandma, I owe you an apology. That is just in case you kind of missed to invite her for your wedding. Well, you can also say, Grandma, I want to apologize. All right? So both these expressions are used to show that you're serious and that you are genuine about your apology. They are a little more formal, so they show respect to the person that you're talking to, and they are really useful in the workplace. In the office, when you need, to sound professional and maybe a little more formal, then these are a great option to use. The other thing to keep in mind is that both these expressions need an explanation. Why are you sorry? You could say, I want to apologize for something, right? I want to apologize to someone. I want to apologize to your sister. So, all right. Now let's think of a more significant problem that maybe you created now. You need to write a formal apology, for your behavior or for the behavior of a family member. Something that you really regret, or in a professional context, when your mistake has resulted in a significant problem for your customer or for your company. Well, in these situations, you need a more formal language that's going to help you express just how deeply sorry you are. So, I sincerely apologize. I sincerely apologize for my behavior, or for my action, or for the trouble that I have caused. Okay? Or I could take full responsibility. You could also say, I take full responsibility for whatever has happened. Now, you might even take it one step further and say, I'm embarrassed about what happened, or I'm ashamed of my behavior, or my brother's behavior. I'm really embarrassed. Now, it's more common to see these expressions used in written English, like in an email or a letter. But in professional or quite formal situations, it's acceptable to say, to use these expressions directly to someone. Now, don't forget that these ways are quite formal and they are quite serious ways to apologize. So, if you are a little bit late to the class, it's probably a bit too much to say, I sincerely apologize for being late. I take full responsibilities for my action. Well, these expressions are too strong in such a situation. But if you accidentally slept in and you missed your final exam, well, then this kind of language might actually be useful for you. You might be able to convince your professor that it's an honest mistake, and you might maybe get a repeat of the exam. Well, with that, I come to the end of this session, and I hope this was useful to you. If you like this video, do not forget to click the like button and subscribe to my channel, Let's Speak English. In case you have questions or comments,